Thomas and Friends, making tracks to great destinations.
Dear Christopher, here is your friend Thomas the Tank Engine. He wanted to come out of his station yard and see the world. These stories tell you how he did it. I hope you will like them, because you helped me to make them. Your loving Daddy.
The island of Sodor is surrounded by beautiful blue sea. It has fields of green and sandy yellow beaches. There are rivers, streams, and lots of trees with birds singing. There are windmills and a coal mine, and docks where visitors to the island arrive. The island also has lots and lots of railway lines. Who's that puffing down the track? It's Thomas! Hello, Thomas!
Hello, everybody! Welcome to the island of Sodor.
Today on the island of Sodor, we'll see what happens when Emily collects new coaches. And we watch Henry wishing he had a more exciting job. But first, Thomas has to collect some special fuel. And it isn't coal. It was a busy, bustling day on the island of Sodor. All over the island, steam engines and diesel engines were happily working together. So Topham Hatt came to see Thomas.
The quarry has an important order to fill. I need an engine that is both useful and reliable.
I won't let you down, sir.
Whistled Thomas proudly. But when Thomas arrived at the quarry, he had a nasty surprise.
Oh, it's you.
Oiled Diesel.
What are you doing here?
I'm here to help Mavis.
Steamies can't help. Not like a diesel.
That's not true.
Said Thomas crossly. He began working at once. But Diesel was soon up to his old tricks. First, he shunted Thomas under the house.
Cinders and ashes!
Then, when Thomas let off steam, Diesel sniffed loudly.
What's that horrible smell?
He cried.
Oh, it's just a stinky old steam engine.
How rude!
Explained Thomas.
No wonder the fat controller is thinking of scrapping steam engines.
I don't believe you.
Puffed Thomas. But he was upset. That night, Thomas stayed at the quarry, but he couldn't sleep.
What if Sir Topham Hatt scraps all of us?
Thomas was worried. The next day, Salty arrived.
Ahoy there, me hearties. Fresh diesel from the mainland.
After he had been fueled, Diesel started to go faster and faster.
This new fuel makes my axles tingle.
Cold doesn't make my axles tingle. I wish I could have fresh fuel.
Even Mavis was excited by the new fuel. Thomas was feeling left out. Soon, Diesel was showing off.
I'm the fastest engine in the world. Look at me go!
Suddenly, Diesel's engine coughed. Then it started to splutter. Black, smelly smoke billowed from his exhaust.
I feel sick.
Mavis started billowing smoke too.
So do I.
She groaned. The quarry manager was upset.
It's the new fuel. Water must leak into the tanks.
Soon all the other Diesels got sick. Harry, Bert, and even Salty had ground to a halt. So Sir Topham Hatt called the quarry manager. And the quarry manager came to see Thomas.
You are to collect fresh diesel from the fuel depot.
Right away, sir.
Whistled Thomas, and he steamed out of the quarry as fast as he could. At last he arrived at the fuel depot.
Give me all the clean fuel you got. This is an emergency.
We'll soon have you loaded.
Thomas was soon loaded with trucks carrying fuel drums. The fuel drums were very heavy. Thomas pushed with all his might. His pistons creaked and his wheels squeaked, but he kept on puffing. Thomas trundled all over the island with fresh fuel for everyone. For Salty, for Harry, and for Bert. Thomas was feeling very tired, but he still had one more delivery to make. At the quarry, all work had stopped. Diesel was as green as a leaf. Mavis was feeling very glum. Then they heard a wonderful noise. It was Thomas. He steamed into the quarry with one final puff.
I made it.
Mavis and Diesel had all the bad fuel drained out of their engines, and all the good clean fuel poured in.
Marvelous,
sighed Diesel.
Thank you, Thomas.
Purred Mavis. Soon the quarry was clattering with the sound of work. And finally, the important job was done. Sir Topham Hatt arrived with Percy.
Well done, Thomas. You have saved the day. You are a really useful engine and a credit to the railway.
Thank you, sir.
And even Diesel had to admit that Thomas is a very special engine. Even if he is a steam. Here are some dots. If we join the dots, we'll see one of the engines on Sir Topham Hatt's railway. I wonder what engine that is. Let's join the dots and find out. Here we go. There's a large tender, the cab, and there's the dome. This is a very big engine. It's got a very small funnel. Can you tell who it is yet? Around the buffers and the wheels. It's got lots of wheels. Do you know who it is? That's right. It's Gordon. Hello, Gordon. There are many different engines on Sir Topham Hatt's railway, and there are many different sounds. Let's listen to some of them. Thomas is a steam engine. When he puffs along, he sounds very different from Mavis, who is a diesel engine. Thomas and Mavis. When Thomas collects coal from the coal yard, the coal sounds very different from the gravel Mavis collects from the quarry. The coal, the gravel. When Thomas chuffs happily across the stone bridge, he sounds very different to Mavis when she trundles over the steel bridge. The stone bridge, the steel bridge. Finally, when Thomas arrives at Brendan Docks, he applies his brakes. Thomas's brakes sound like this. Whereas Mavis's brakes sound like this. Thomas and Mavis. On the island of Sodor, there are always so many different jobs to do, and also many different sounds to hear. It was a splendid day on the island of Sodor. Thomas was taking Annie and Clarabelle back to the yard. A new engine had arrived and he wanted to say hello. The engine was beautiful with shiny paintwork and a gleaming brass dome.
Thomas, meet Emily.
Hello, Emily.
Hello, Thomas.
Emily, collect your coaches, please. You and your driver must learn the line.
Thomas was impressed. Later, the only coaches Emily's driver could find were Annie and Clarabelle.
These aren't your sort of coaches, but I suppose they'll do.
Annie and Clarabelle felt insulted.
How dare he say will do?
Clarabelle whispered. Emily puffed carefully along the track.
How dare he say will do?
How dare he say we'll do?
Rumbled the coaches. Thomas saw Emily coming down the line, pulling Annie and Clarabelle.
Hello, Thomas.
Emily called, but Thomas was cross.
Those are my coaches. Give them back.
But Emily didn't hear Thomas, and she went on her way. Then Emily passed Edward and Percy. When Emily whistled hello, the engines didn't whistle back. Emily couldn't understand why they were so unfriendly. She was upset. Later, Sir Topham Hatt spoke to Thomas.
I want you to go to the docks to pick up new coaches.
New coaches? But sir!
Really useful engines don't argue.
Thomas didn't want new coaches. He wanted Annie and Clarabelle back. When Oliver saw Emily return to the yards, he was surprised.
Those are Thomas's coaches.
So that's why he looked cross.
Exclaimed Emily.
I'll go and apologize.
Don't want new coaches, don't want new coaches.
Later, Emily was still looking for Thomas when a signalman flagged her down.
Oliver hasn't cleared his signal box.
He told Emily's driver.
Please go and see what's wrong.
Emily could see that Oliver had broken down on the crossing. Then Emily heard Thomas's whistle.
Oh dear.
Thomas could see Oliver. He knew he could never stop in time.
Help!
Emily charged towards Oliver. And with a huge effort, pushed him across the tracks. Just in time.
Thanks.
I did it.
Later, Sir Topham Hatt praised Emily.
Well done. You were a very brave engine.
The bravest?
Chuffed Oliver.
It gives me great pleasure to present to you with 2 new coaches.
Thank you, sir.
Replied Emily.
Thomas, I'm sorry I took Annie and Clarabelle.
And I'm sorry if I was so cross.
Replied Thomas.
Friends?
Friends.
Emily loves her new coaches and being a part of Sir Topham Hatt's railway. Each engine on the island of Sodor looks different. Can you tell who is who? This engine is green. It has large wheels. In fact, the whole engine looks very large. There is a coal tender at the back. Do you know who it is yet? On the side is a big yellow number 3. Have you guessed? It's Henry. Hello, Henry. This engine is a completely different shape. The wheels are covered, and it has cow catchers on the front and on the back. And there are 2 small windows on each side. This engine is made of wood, and it has a big number 7 painted on the sides. Who could it be? That's right, it's Toby. Hello, Toby. Now, do you know who this last engine is? This engine is smaller than Henry. It has flat water tanks on each side, painted with a beautiful bright blue, with bright red stripes. There are wheel arches in the front, and a tall black funnel, and a big yellow number 1. Who is number 1 on Sir Topham Hatt's railway? Do you know? It's Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Thomas, Toby, and Henry all look very different, but they're all really useful engines. It was summertime on the island of Sodor. Gordon pulled the passenger express. It was very busy, but Gordon loved the hustle and bustle. Henry hauled freight cars in the forest. He loved the peace and quiet, but he didn't see many people. Sometimes working in the forest could be very lonely. Later, Henry pulled into Namford Station. He was delighted to see all the passengers. But Gordon was not delighted to see Henry.
Keep your smelly freight away from my passengers.
grumbled Gordon.
But it's only logs.
Chuffed Henry.
Passengers and freight do not mix.
Huffed Gordon, and he wheeshed away. Henry watched the express leave the station.
I like to pull passengers. Just for a change.
Henry stopped at the water tank on the edge of the forest. Children were standing by one of the trees.
What are those children doing?
That's the old Sodor wishing tree. They must be making a wish.
A wishing tree?
Gasped Henry.
How wonderful. Do you think it can make my wish come true?
It might,
said Thomas, and he puffed away. Henry rolled up to the wishing tree. He took a deep breath and made a wish as hard as he could.
I wish I could pull the express instead of Gordon.
That evening, Sir Topham Hatt came to see Henry.
Tomorrow, you will pull the express.
Thank you, sir,
said Henry happily. His wish had come true. The next morning, Henry chuffed cheerfully into Knapford Station. When his passengers were on board, Henry blew his whistle and pulled out of the station. But Henry puffed too quickly.
Go gently,
called his driver.
You can bump freight, but you can't bump passengers.
Sorry,
puffed Henry. Henry puffed proudly through the countryside.
pulling pastures is a grand job.
Gordon was in the repair yard. He was being fitted with a new boiler. But Gordon felt lonely. He was missing his passengers. The passengers were missing Gordon too. They were having the bounciest, bumpiest ride they had ever had. When Henry got back to the shed, Sir Topham Hatt was waiting for him.
There have been complaints,
he said sternly.
Passengers are not like logs. You must be gentle.
Yes, sir,
said Henry sadly. Being gentle was very difficult. Then Henry saw Gordon. He was looking miserable.
My wish has made Gordon go to the repair yard,
gasped Henry. This made Henry feel very bad. The next day, Henry had to collect the dining car. He tried his best to be gentle. But he shunted the dining car so hard, everything flew into the air. There were more complaints than ever. Henry didn't want to pull passengers anymore. He wanted to wish everything back to normal. But when he arrived at the forest, Henry couldn't remember which tree was the wishing tree.
Oh no! Which one could it be?
Henry didn't know. So he decided to wish on all the trees.
I wish I could pull freight again.
Then he moved to the next tree and wished again.
I wish I could pull freight again.
Sir Topham Hatt arrived on board Thomas.
What are you doing, Henry?
Asked Sir Topham Hatt.
You are causing confusion and delay.
Henry told them all about the wishing tree.
Wishing trees don't run railways. That's my job. Gordon just needed some repairs. He'll be back tomorrow.
Henry was delighted. The next day, Gordon came back to work. He looked as good as new. The passengers were so pleased to see him. They cheered and cheered and cheered. Gordon beamed happily for the rest of the day. Henry was happy to be back in the peace and quiet of the forest. At the end of the day, he stopped near the wishing tree. And even though Sir Topham had told him trees don't run railways, Henry wished he would never have to pull passengers ever again. Just in case.
He's the cheeky one.
James
is vain but lots of fun.
Percy
pulls the mail on time.
Gordon
thunders down the line.
Emily
really knows her stuff.
Henry
toots and huffs and puffs.
Edward
wants to help and share.
Toby